Hello and welcome to Elevate Your Wealth. I'm Casey Elkins, co-founder and financial advisor at Elevated Financial Management. We have got a great show for you today. We're really excited to have you. I'm here as always with Mark Stimson, my friend, father-in-law, and business partner. How you doing, Mark?
I am doing really, really good. I'm so excited to be doing this show today with you, Casey. And I think there's some things that we're going to talk about today, because many of you out there right now might be feeling a little anxious about maybe what's happening to your 401k. Maybe you're stressed out just about things that are happening in our government. There's been talk about a possible government default on some of their payments if they don't get this debt ceiling raised. There's things happening in the world, the war in Russia. These things are weighing on everybody's minds, and I think you'd agree with that. But I think in today's show, we're going to really talk about some things that can affect you in such a positive way, and we're looking forward to sharing some of those with our viewers today.
Absolutely. You know, I think that you make a solid point. There's a lot going on and a lot of things happening now that haven't happened before all at the same time, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things going on all at once. And as we look to the future, I think something that we hear quite a bit about from clients is Social Security,
Yeah.
concerned about what Social Security is going to look like in the future. Is it going to be there for them? How is it going to affect their retirement? What types of things are you hearing from clients, Mark?
You know, this is a subject that's really kind of a pillar for our practice. Social Security planning, I'm a nationally certified Social Security advisor, and I'd like to just share with the viewers today a quick story that could have happened to many of you in the audience today. But I had a client come in a couple of years ago. She was widowed. Her husband passed away unexpectedly, and this client is 71 years old, but Social Security had told her not to take her survivor benefit.
Right.
This came right from Social Security. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. And so what I did is, the reality is she missed almost 2 years worth of benefit. You can only go
Maybe,
back.
Mark, for those that are listening that are unfamiliar with the survivor benefit, can you explain a little bit about what that is so they kind of understand that
Yeah,
aspect of it?
so I'm glad you brought that up, Kate. So if we lose a spouse, let's say, and there's a tremendous difference between a spousal benefit and a survivor benefit. But if you lose a spouse, you're going to be entitled as the surviving spouse to begin a benefit based on the deceased spouse.
Right.
And so when that happened to this person, she was told not to do it because she was still working.
Mm-hmm. And in her circumstance, it would have been a higher amount, right? That's the issue.
Yeah. And they were trying to tell her, because she was working, that she would have to also deal with an earned income test. Mm-hmm. That ended up being totally inaccurate. She's past full retirement age.
Right.
So not only was she given that information, which was not correct, but then she was also told not to do it. And so by the time I got her benefits started, we could only go back and recover 6 months worth of benefit. She lost 1.5 years of money that it was hard earned. She should have gotten. But this is what we want to stress. You need to really talk with somebody that understands the Social Security world. And that's not always going to be the Social Security Administration.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that really is a solid point that while they are there to answer some questions, it's really in reference to how to file for benefits and those type of things. They're not there to answer filing specific questions about your situation and what your benefit's going to be. And that's, you've got to have a higher level view of Social Security to better understand how it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
Maybe before we get into our break, we can actually talk a little bit about the 2015 Bipartisan Act, and just real quickly, how that has kind of changed Social Security. What has that done to Social Security?
The biggest change that did, it took away a main filing strategy that was known as file and suspend. We won't spend much time on that today because it's not in existence for anybody anymore. But it was a wonderful benefit because you could turn on or apply for Social Security, suspend that benefit, and allow your benefit to roll up. Let's say you're 66. You could let it roll up to 70, You could also then possibly draw a spousal benefit, which is a whole nother issue that we can talk about, but that's gone away with now. So that was probably one of the biggest changes that Social Security has made. All I want to stress is there is a lot to this. If I had my Social Security and Medicare book with me right now, it's like this thick, and we get one of these every year to talk about changes and strategies. So there's a lot to this, and I just highly recommend you talk with somebody that knows what they're doing when it comes to Social Security planning.
Right. And, with that change, the Bipartisan Act of 2015, as you mentioned, that's removed a strategy that was available. And we won't spend a lot of time talking about that strategy because it's not applicable anymore, right? But what we do want to figure out is, what can we actually do to have a positive effect on somebody's Social Security? With that change in the Bipartisan Act, does that just completely get rid of any strategies when it comes to Social Security? So what can somebody do? What are things that can be done to help increase somebody's Social Security?
Well, one of the biggest things that we need to be concerned about is, when should I claim? When do I want to turn my benefit on? There's a lot of noise coming from Social Security wanting everybody to turn their benefit on at 62. And there are many of us that specialize in this that would tell you, no, we don't recommend that. Now, your situation is very unique to you, and if you actually need the money to live, then you don't want to do it. But the one thing I will say, there's also what's known as an earned income test, and we're probably going to talk a little bit more about that in our next segment. But these are all different strategies where we want you to maximize your Social Security, and you can't do that if you don't understand the different strategies involved.
That's right. You've got to be working with somebody who can help you understand how that's going to affect your particular retirement, your individual situation. So for our viewers at home, for our first 10 callers that pick up the phone, get off the couch and take advantage of this, please dial the number 844-342-7142. We're offering a written financial plan put together by a certified financial planner. That includes a risk analysis, a tax analysis, a Social Security optimization report, among many other things that are going to directly affect your retirement. So please don't hesitate, pick up that phone, no obligation, completely complimentary, 844-342-7142. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Social Security and also get into some taxes, so don't change the dial. We'll be right back on Elevate Your Wealth.
Call 844-342-7142 to receive your complimentary written financial plan and Social Security optimization report. Get the most from Social Security payments. Find a strategy that maximizes your Social Security benefit and preserves the assets you've saved for retirement. Social Security seems easy, right? The question is, should you take it now or later? There are numerous ways to take Social Security. The decisions you make can also affect how much you pay in taxes. You've paid into Social Security for decades. Now you want to make sure you optimize your retirement income. Call Mark Casey and their team at 844-342-7142 for your complimentary written financial plan and Social Security maximization report. You need a retirement income plan that accounts for all your assets. Call Casey, Mark, and their team right now at 844-342-7142 to receive your complimentary written financial plan and Social Security maximization report. Or use the QR code on the screen to schedule your appointment today.
Hello and welcome back to Elevate Your Wealth. We're happy you're still with us. Today we're talking about Social Security and how that's going to affect your retirement, what that looks like in the future. Again, I'm Casey Elkins here with Mark Stimson. Mark, as I mentioned, we're talking about Social Security and there's so much going on. You mentioned previously when we were talking a couple minutes ago about something called the Earned Income Test. And I think it might be good to kind of explain that a little bit more. It's probably an unfamiliar term for a lot of folks, right?
Yeah, and this can be a problem if you don't understand what it is. And we talked about filing early. Let's say that your full retirement age is 66. It could be 67, but the point is, if you file before you're 66, and let's say you're 62, and you decide you want the benefits because you believe it's the best thing for you to do in your situation, all of a sudden you get a letter from Social Security that says, hey, Mark, you're working. And now I started my Social Security, and the 2023 number is $21,240. What does that mean? So this is what it means. For every $2 that you make over $21,240, if you're working, they're going to take a dollar back of your Social Security. Well, what does that really mean? Well, that's a 50% penalty. That's a pretty stiff penalty to find out because you didn't understand it going in. And so we talk about this all the time at our workshops, on our radio show, television show. For most people, not all, but the majority, if you're working and are thinking about turning on your Social Security, don't do it until you hit full retirement age. Because if you do and you go over this limit, you're going to be penalized 50%. So it's something you truly want to understand.
Yeah, that's something that we actually see quite a bit.
Yep.
Folks are thinking, well, I can take my Social Security at 62. I'm going to go ahead and take the money, right? I want to get that income started. And we understand the thinking, right? But the issue is that there's a lot of things going on that maybe somebody is unfamiliar with and doesn't understand how that's going to affect them. And so taking that Social Security while you're still working can actually be a detriment as far as your income is concerned, right? That's the whole idea behind the earned income test. And so with that, I know that we've had quite a few folks come into the office that had already started their Social Security before they came in and didn't know that the earned income test was going to be applicable to them. And I think there's one in specific that you'd like to kind of talk about.
Yeah, and before I share the story, one of the things I want to say in connection with what Casey just mentioned is you also do have one mulligan. If you have started Social Security and you're within 12 months from the day you filed, we can file what's known as a 521 form. And if we do that, it'll allow you to stop your Social Security. All you have to do is pay back the benefits you've received, and then they wipe the slate clean. You're going to get a fresh start. And that's happened many times when people get educated to really understand what was happening to them. So it's important that we do understand that, and there is a way to fix it. But you only have 12 months, not 12 months in one day. Once you go one day past your 12-month window, that option goes right out the window. So it's no longer available to you. This happened with a dear client of mine. He was working. He's a plastic surgeon in the Seattle area. Wanted to turn his Social Security on. Didn't really need the money, but he thought, hey, I need to start grabbing mine now, right?
It's a common thought, right?
Yeah, it is.
People don't understand it.
Yep.
And
People want to just grab it now. They're worried about Social Security going away. There is some changes coming, but this individual turned it on, and then he found out after the fact, because he didn't talk to Social Security, because when you do file early and then there's an earned income test, it's better for you to talk to them first and kind of head the problem off the bat. If they find out, it can mess up how long it's going to be before you get your next check.
Right.
There's a lot of things that come into play that you're not going to fully understand, and it's a little hard to get it corrected. But this individual realized all of a sudden he was losing 50% of his Social Security because he makes way over $21,000 a year. And he had no idea that this earned income test even existed. So it's a problem that we want to make sure our viewers understand and can know what to do if they're thinking about going early.
Right, and it's a big unknown, right? It's something that folks just don't understand. And that's okay, because there's folks out there to help with that, right? But you've got to take advantage of the resources that you have available to you. I think something else that we hear quite a bit is taxes in general. But there's also a lot of misunderstanding surrounding taxes when it comes to Social Security, right? We've had folks tell us that they were under the impression that Social Security was not going to be taxed at all. They're not quite sure how it's going to be taxed or what bracket it's going to be taxed at. There's lots of kind of misconceptions there. So there's three levels that your Social Security is going to be taxed at, right? Either 0% of your Social Security will be taxed, 50% or 85%, right? Maybe you can share a few more details about how taxes work with Social Security.
Yeah, so the way it's calculated is Social Security, when you do your taxes, what's known as provisional income, that's all sources of income are going to be considered. Now, if you are a single filer, we know if you make under $25,000 a year, you're going to be in the 0% bracket. Then there's another bracket that will take you from 0. You might have to declare 50%. And I want to back up because provisional income also includes 50% of your Social Security in the calculation. So you have all sources of income plus 50% of your Social Security. And I will just say this, most of our viewers that are married filing jointly, you and your husband's income is going to be over $44,000 a year. And if that's the case, then you are going to have to declare 85% of your Social Security and pay tax on that. And I do believe that's probably one of the biggest travesties that our tax code has done to us, because you've already paid tax on your Social Security. Now, there are some awesome planning techniques that you can use to possibly lower that Social Security torpedo that we call it sometimes. That can happen, but you've got to have a plan to be able to do that. You have to understand things that you can change inside your portfolio that might take a taxable investment and make it tax deferred, or more importantly, even tax free. So planning for this is really involved.
Right, and the timing of Social Security is so important.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we can't stress enough, in that if we take Social Security early, there's the earned income test and how that's going to affect us. But not only that, if let's say we take Social Security at 62 and we live 30, 35 years, the difference between filing at 62 versus 65 or 66 or 67 or even 70, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars over that time frame. So nobody knows what the future looks like, but it's a conversation you want to have, something that you want to make sure you understand, so you can really make an informed decision as to what's right in your individual unique situation, right? So that being said, we do include a Social Security optimization report. We have a special offer for our viewers today. You want to let them know what that is, Mark?
Yeah, and Casey just mentioned it. We've been focusing this show on Social Security, so we want you to know that if you'll come in, pick up the phone, and call 844-342-7142, we're going to do a Social Security optimization for you, but there's going to be a lot more than just that. We're going to do a written plan that's going to address your income. Where's your sources of income that's guaranteed going to come from? What about how taxes are going to affect your plan? What kind of fees are you paying inside of your plan that you may or may not be aware of? What about if you want to leave assets to your children in the best way, which we know is tax-free, right? And so this is all going to be part of a plan. So if you've saved at least $250,000, maybe you've worked at Boeing for decades or Weyerhaeuser, please pick up the phone, 844-342-7142. Come in and see us. Let's have a conversation. It'll be totally complimentary. Leave your checkbook at home, and let's put a plan together for you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Don't hesitate to pick up that phone for a written financial plan put together by a certified financial planner. The number's on the screen, 844-342-7142. We're going to talk a little bit more about Social Security, and then we're going to dive into taxes when we come back. Don't change the channel.
Call 844-342-7142 to receive your complimentary written financial plan and Social Security optimization report. Get the most from Social Security payments. Find a strategy that maximizes your Social Security benefit and preserves the assets you've saved for retirement. Social Security seems easy, right? The question is, should you take it now or later? There are numerous ways to take Social Security. The decisions you make can also affect how much you pay in taxes. You've paid into Social Security for decades. Now you want to make sure you optimize your retirement income. Call Mark Casey and their team at 844-342-7142 for your complimentary written financial plan and Social Security maximization report. You need a retirement income plan that accounts for all your assets. Call Casey, Mark, and their team right now at 844-342-7142 to receive your complimentary written financial plan and Social Security maximization report. Or use the QR code on the screen to schedule your appointment today.
Hello and welcome back to Elevate Your Wealth. I'm Casey Elkins here with Mark Stimson. We're talking about Social Security, taxes, many things that are going to affect you in retirement. Mark, when it comes to Social Security, I know that so many are worried it's not going to be here in the future. They're concerned that if they wait to take Social Security, they may only be able to take it for a few years before Social Security is gone. So if we fast forward 10, 15 years from now, is Social Security still here? What does it look like? What do you think?
Yeah. I will just say this. There's changes that are coming, and in about maybe 10 to 11 years, there could be a significant reduction. Do I believe Social Security is going away? Absolutely not. I believe I'm going to get my check. I'm full retirement age next September, so a lot of things I'm sharing with the viewers today is something that I'm working on deciding when to take Social Security. We know if you do wait, especially from 66 to 70, it's an 8% guaranteed roll-up on that money every year. Where do I get that right now on my, are my stocks paying me 8% guaranteed? We know the answer to that, right? No. Stocks a lot of times right now are going the other way on us. So, you know, having a written plan that's going to address what happens if I lose upwards of 25% of my Social Security in a decade. Do you have a plan to replace that? If you only have Social Security, I think we all can imagine what it's going to feel like if you were living on $2,000 a month and now it's going to be dropped to $1,500. That's going to be a real issue. So do you have a plan that's possibly going to address what is coming down the pike? But as far as it going away and necessarily grabbing the money now because we think it's going to be gone, I would absolutely say no to that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there has to be some changes, and we all understand that there's going to be some changes coming, but I think they're going to have to make some more changes than they've already talked about. But I don't believe that Social Security will be gone in the future. That would be an act of suicide politically for whoever decided to do that, right?
Exactly.
So, but they'll definitely have to make some changes, and I think it's important to understand that because it's going to affect everybody. You know, we were talking about taxes and we're talking about kind of legislation type things. When it comes to taxes, we know that right now the country has massive debt that we have never seen before, right? And this is something we talk about quite a bit, but it's important because this is going to affect those with tax deferred accounts very heavily. And those tax deferred accounts, that's your 401k, your IRA, your 403b, those type of accounts, taxes have never been paid on them, right? So we've been deferring the taxes, not knowing what that tax rate's going to be in the future. And so if tax rates go up, what's one of the main sources of retirees' income? It's from a tax-deferred account, right? We've been saving in our 401k, building our IRA. So when they go to take that money out, there's going to be an unknown tax rate for them at that point because we're not sure what that's going to be in the future. So that being said, with the debt of the country, the exposure that gives to retirees, where do we think taxes are going in the future? What would you say, Mark?
Well, I'm going to give everybody two guesses on that today, right? I think we know they're going to go down, right? No, we all know that that's not happening. They're going to be going up. One of the things that I'd like to maybe stress a little bit about 401ks, 403bs, qualified plans, a lot of people keep that money locked up for the exact reason that Casey just mentioned. They are afraid to face the tax man. They just don't want to do it, right? But if we know taxes are going up, might it be a prudent strategy to possibly pay some tax now at the lowest rate that you're going to see in your lifetime, free up some of those dollars that you're very scared to spend because you don't want to pay tax, right? I think we all don't like the tax man, you know, but we all have to face the tax man, right? And so facing the music now can be a powerful strategy that's going to help to make sure your money lasts a lot longer than by kicking the can down the road and dealing. What if your bracket is up 5, 6, 7% higher because you waited? It's not going to be a good strategy because we just don't want to talk about it or face the music on.
Right. That's really where planning comes in.
Yep.
And we use this analogy quite a bit because it's so easy to understand. When we think about taxes, we go to our accountant at the end of the year, our CPA, we're filing our taxes. We think of the previous 12 months. What can I do to lessen my taxes in the previous 12 months? But that's not planning. That's not forward thinking, right? So in a car, when we think of it that way, we're looking at taxes in the rear view mirror if we're just planning, if we're just looking at the last 12 months, right? But we want to look through the front windshield. We want to see what's coming our way as far possible as we can, because as those roadblocks come up, we want to be able to adjust. We need to have contingencies, right, in our retirement. And if we're heading right for a wall, we need to make an adjustment now. The sooner, the better. And so paying taxes sounds kind of odd. Choosing to pay taxes now sounds kind of odd, right? But as you mentioned, if we're taking advantage of the current tax rate, that really can pay dividends in the future when we look at true planning. So please go ahead,
Yeah,
Mark.
I was going to say, since we've been talking about Social Security, I just think this is a great time to maybe share a strategy that a lot of people just don't think about. If we know our Social Security is going to grow 8% by letting it continue to roll up, right? What about paying tax on some of the qualified money that we know right now, especially, is not earning 8%? Why not take some money out of those qualified plans, pay tax on it, use that money to supplement what my Social Security would have given me? What an unbelievably cool strategy that you don't hear talked about. You'll hear the big box stores, they will tell you, oh no, turn the Social Security on. What do you think, what's the main reason, Casey, that the big box stores want you to turn Social Security on before taking money out of their qualified plans?
Well, if they're managing your accounts, they're getting paid to do so, right? So if you take money out, that's less to manage, less to charge on.
That's it. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. So again, please, I can't overemphasize the importance of a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of that, we're offering for our first 10 callers a written financial plan put together by a certified financial planner. Mark, maybe I can have you share a little bit more about what that entails.
Yeah, again, if you save $250,000 or more, you're getting ready to retire, maybe you work at Boeing or any other big corporation where you have a 401k that you're worried about, why don't we get together and we want to do a plan for you. We're going to do a written plan that is done by a certified financial planner. He's going to analyze your taxes, how those are being paid. What's the best way to take money out of different buckets? What about your Social Security maximization and optimization? What about any legacy planning you want to do? And then we're going to look closely at where your income is going to come from. So please pick up the phone, call 844-342-7142. That's 844-342-7142. And let's get together and have a complimentary conversation.
Again, that number is 844-342-7142. Don't hesitate to call. We're just like what you see on TV. Totally complimentary, no obligation. We'll put together that financial plan just for you in your unique situation. Thank you for joining us again today. We look forward to seeing you again next week right here on Elevate Your Wealth.